and I'm here with Product Manager HQ. We're doing a series of product leader interview events, and today I am very excited to have Ankit Goswami. Ankit is currently a senior product manager at Expedia, leading the e-commerce checkout department. Ankit has also worked at Amazon, leading their product growth, Airtel, and Aditya Birla Group. Ankit, we're very excited to have you here today. He's also a mentor, and if you're not following him on LinkedIn, make sure you follow him for his latest posts. Very insightful. Thank you, Ankit, for joining us today.
Thank you so much, and for that lovely introduction. And I'm, looking forward to share a few of my insights around my own experience. And I hope that the audience can have some takeaways from today's discussion.
We're very excited to have you. And for the audience, this is a live Q&A, so if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the chat and we'll get to them later on in the show or during the show as well. So Ankit, your career began as a network engineer. You
Mhm.
started technical. You also have an MBA.
Yeah.
Can you tell us your journey into product and what
Mhm.
led you to a career in product management?
Sure. I think that's a very interesting journey as well because when I started off as a run of the mill, BTech and an MBA in India. I mean, I did my engineering in telecommunications and moved into Ericsson. So I was working more on the I would say on the backend side of the development processes. Like I was doing codings in certain languages out there, working on creating some network routes and all. However, what really excited me was that I was working very closely with a lot of process and product managers at that point in time, and what really made me curious was that, okay, what is how I can get onto the other side, and what more do I need in that process. So obviously, there was a kind of strategic thinking needed because you were more tactical on ground doing certain things. So I decided to kind of after working for close to 3.5 years, I kind of decided to do an MBA to kind of understand multiple aspects. I would say around how to formulate a strategy, how do you build that consumer behavior kind of a mindset. How do you go about with those things? Obviously, at that point in time, you were not really very clear that, okay, is this a field for you? Because I was still going to do an MBA with a very open mindset that maybe this is not a field or maybe it is not. Right? So there were multiple things that were coming in my mind. Right. I in fact did my internship with Amazon and was able to crack that company as well in the operations domain though. But doing my internship in a very different domain made me realize that this is not something that I wanted. So I was going by the route of elimination in terms of my starting my career path. Uh, w- uh, in my final year, I actually decided to take one conglomerate as a part of my journey, which is Adtech Group. The reason why I really picked that company up was because that company was willing to give its employees a chance to get rotated across functions, across companies. So that was a kind of flexibility that I wanted to kind of experiment to see that what is it that is making sense. And it so happened that during my first stint of product strategy that I was doing with the Birla Group, demonetization happened in India, and this was a very new opportunity that came up within the group that you have to build a fintech product from scratch, which basically can compete with the existing incumbents like your wallets, other net banking formats, so on and so forth. So now I hopped onto that opportunity just because I had product management in the back of my mind, so I wanted to really take that up. And I wanted to see that, okay, in this new industry, what is it that this product has to offer? And of course, a lot of things were sounding very promising. So yeah, that was how I kind of broke into it. So it was, I would say, uh, accidental. At the same time, it was like, I mean, a lot of things were planned in MBA in terms of the subjects, but again, this was a more of an accidental move from a product strategy manager to a product manager. So yeah.
Very nice, very nice. And you mentioned that you worked at different levels of companies, organizations. You worked at a startup. You worked at bigger companies, organizations. What are the differences between the different types of product management roles you've had?
All right. I think that's a good question to ask. So I think so far now hitting my seventh year in product, I can say that I have now some summarized experience into being a growth PM, being a core PM, and being a platform PM. Now, for the folks who are not really aware too much into the concept, let me just give you an analogy of a food court, right? I mean, a food court consists of multiple food outlets, right? So, and each outlet has some speciality or core features. They collectively, which collectively define the user experience for this entire food court, for the people who are flocking in, right? Now, so consider your core PMs to be the one who are actually defining these respective outlets and all the experiences that they will be creating, which are basically the core features of this whole food court. Uh, Obviously, these outlets will also need gas, electricity, and space depending upon if there are some makeshift vendor arrangements around there, right? So this will ensure that there is an availability around the core features, which is not causing any disruption in your core customer experience. So that is something which we call as a platform PM. All right. And third thing is that how you can ease the friction of the users who are coming to your shop. How can you make that discovery more easy, or how can you increase the revenue of each of those outlets through a certain strategy, which is basically a growth PM role. So as a part of my career, I started off as a core PM, building the UPI app as well as the microservices, which was also a part, I would say, a platform PM role in a way. I then switched over to Airtel, where I was, very much focused only being the growth PM, and I was working on multiple products at a given point in time, which is not very peculiar for the core PMs because you are think it like you are working on a vertical slice of a cake, where you are working right from creating the product strategy uh, to the roadmap to the execution, everything, right? So you're just going in that direction. Currently at Expedia, I am a platform PM who is trying to build the capabilities on the checkout for creating a better traveler experience. So now a distinction between these roles in organizations will depend upon that how big that organization is. Because if the organization is too large, then of course there will be multiple products, and one core PM cannot take up the responsibility of growing the funnel of each and every product. So then there will be a specialized team around it. When I talk about a smaller firm, you will typically see that these roles are core PM and growth PM are kind of merged. So yeah, I mean the role fungibility moves from firm to firm, but you generally see platform PMs to be very much differentiated from these roles. So a core and growth PM can be a separate role, can be a same role depending upon the life stage of the product. So if it's a 0 to 1 product, obviously you won't be needing a growth PM at that point in time. But if you have passed that stage, then you will see a dedicated growth team being created. So yeah.
Thank you. And then, what are the important skills that a growth PM should have?
All right. So I think that's really a good question to really look at that. What really makes a good growth product manager, right? So I think the first skill set that this person needs is that you need a scientific mindset. So it's all about being analytical, skeptic, curious. So a person should really dig deep into the surface to find the answer, and they should strive to find all the possible what ifs and get the measurable results, because this role is very quantitative, if I may put it that way. So a good growth PM will be very laser focused on numbers, to prove that the initiatives are leading to certain growth, and they should treat any failures in the product as a valuable insight as a part of the progress, and this should ideally go hand in hand with the core PM. So in a given pod, you will have core PMs and you will have a growth PM, just to kind of make sure that certain things are moving at a faster pace. So obviously a growth PM, as you can now figure out, is not tied to the roadmap what a core PM creates, but they try to figure out those opportunity areas within the funnel for the user of a product, that where they can really create that difference and make that metric move forward. So they are very, very metric driven. And if I may, just add few more things. Um, a growth model typically is being followed here, where you define a North Star metric, you identify the user steps, and you try to create those micro moments of growth that eases the journey of your customer through the whole life cycle of the product. So yeah.
Thank you for that answer. Just to go into a little bit more of the metrics side, are there any key metrics that you often use?
Yeah, yeah. So, see, I mean, as a growth manager, you are working across all the funnel steps. Now, if I may, just to put it out to the audience who are maybe uninitiated with it. So, if you go a pirate route or look at the funnel in that way, it starts from awareness, which means that how many people know your brand exists, right? And so the metrics typically over there would be your, are more related to the social media metrics. That okay, how what is the impression reach that you have gained. The second step is more towards the acquisition, which is like how many people are interacting with your product, right? So the metrics will be depending upon the type of the product. It could be number of leads, signups, downloads, installs, so on and so forth. Uh, Followed by, so once a person has really gone into your product, so how many people are realizing value of that particular product is where the activation metrics come into picture. Typical examples would be, like number of times a given action is performed. So, for example, in case of Facebook, it is like how many people add, let's say, 10 friends in 7 days was their activation metric to see that whether they are moving in the forward direction or not. Activation metric is more around how easily and quickly you are taking users to that aha moment, which kind of helps them find the value quicker. Um, then the next metric which comes is that okay, once the user has come to your product, now how do you create that habit? So in order to create that habit, it depends upon what are the breadth and frequency of use cases that you might create. So that's more around the engagement metrics. So over here you will track all the DAUs, MAUs, and what is the action that has been taken in the product, how much time is spent depending upon what product you are talking about. Again, is it a streaming product? Is it a ethic product? So on and so forth. Now, if people have placed sufficient faith in your product, they're realizing those core values. Are they willing to pay something to your product as well? So how many people are paying for the product comes another layer of this funnel, which is your revenue metrics. So what is the willingness to pay? And it is basically the byproduct of the value that they get or derive from your product, and that value basically comes from whatever the problem they are looking to solve for, right? So all your and of course your referral etc. comes depending upon that how ably you are able to retain a given user base. So this is one way to look at things in terms of growth metrics. The second way, which had become popular lately, is more of a growth loop kind of fundamental, where a more of a flywheel concept is created, where a user so this is the problem that you're trying to solve. If a user who have identified that by taking certain actions are able to get new users that kind of create a virtuous loop. Now that action itself is tied to another habit loop kind of a thing. So all in all, these are the typical buckets of metric which you look at in terms of deriving this whole what I should say metrics, which are what a growth product manager looks at day in and day out for any given product. So yeah.
Thank you for that, explaining that a little bit deeper. So you've worked in a startup environment within bigger organizations and focused on 0 to 1 initiatives, like you mentioned before, as well as scaling products. What has your experience been like, and what are the key strategies or tactics that you've adopted so far?
Sure. So let me take a couple of examples, because obviously, if I take all, it will really take a lot of time here. So maybe I'll start with the one where I started my career, which was with Adtech Group, where I was building this fintech app called UPI. Now, what does this app was all about? What was the unique strength? That it was an open transaction platform which allow to use one app which can be linked directly to your bank account, so you can make a money transfer from one account to another without parking it in some intermediary wallet. So and all you needed, and you can transfer money just like you're sending email to one another. So that is the analogy that I can put out here. So but what were the pain points at that point in time that were there in the system? The pain points were that there were lot of these payment modes like wallets, etc., that were semi-closed transactions, which means that a person who is intending to make X or Y transactions have to kind of first of all load that wallet and then kind of transfer it to another. If they have to really take that money out of the wallet, it was another hassle altogether. So obviously that was one. The second was that the whole ecosystem was logged, which means that a person cannot transact from one wallet to another wallet. So if let's say in India we have Paytm, we have PhonePe. So if somebody is making a payment, let's say if somebody holds money in their Paytm wallet and somebody holds it in a PhonePe wallet, so they cannot do an inter-transfer. So that was interoperability was another issue. Security was also another concern because again, there were a lot of protocols that were being developed, but still hackers were finding their way out. So this was also creating the trust barrier. So these were all of the pain points that were there. Now, in a typical 0 to 1 product setup, the step one that you look at is that what problems are you trying to solve, and who you are trying to solve it for, right? So and that has to be tied up with your company North Star metric. Then you have to define your success metrics. Then you have to define what is the roadmap that you intend to take, what is the process and team structures you want to set up. So all these forms a part of your entire exercise of 0 to 1 to make sure that you are moving in a forward direction. So in short, you have to decide that why you are building something. What you want to build basically is a discovery part. How you are trying to build is more of the execution. So from my experience of building UPI, the initial steps were to kind of create this confidence among the users around that, okay, why they should prefer UPI over any other payment mode, right? So hence I kind of broke my journey into two parts. One was the send stage and second was the sprint stage. Now in the send stage, what I was trying to do, I was trying to build this habit of transaction through this easy looking chat like interface where so I was again trying to play with one of the psychology principles, which was around like a very familiar mental model that these people can go through, right? So for example, if somebody is used to adapt to chatting on WhatsApp, etc., they can make the transition just like as if they're chatting. So that was the phase where I was trying to build trust with the core values of this UPI. The second was the sprint phase where I started integrating the solution with the merchants, where I was not only focused on making these transactions ubiquitous for the people, but how I can make these people go to the shops and also utilize it. Otherwise, they will churn out. So on one side of the product roadmap, it was more about creating these two different bucket of solutions. The second part was that how I can parallelly create the processes that kind of make it all seamless. So that was happening apart from, and of course, the product discovery, there are certain steps to it which were going alongside with it. Again, I'm happy to deep dive into those product discovery steps as well if time permits. So yeah, this was what I was trying to do. But in a 0 to 1 stage, what I would suggest is that the disproportionate time of any product manager should go in clearly defining your problem statement, and then kind of aligning it to certain shorter, what I should say, validations that you have to do with your customers. Once those are done, then you go into a proper, what I should say, a product development phase. Because again, if you are in a 0 to 1 stage, I am assuming that the funds are, I mean, even if you are well funded, you still have a lot to prove. So you want to get into those quick validations initially, and then probably as you slowly move towards the stage where you have created the product market fit, then you move ahead with that.
Which leads me to my next question: is what are your tips on finding the right market product fit?
All right. I think that's again also a great question to answer. So yeah, for product market fit, as I say that you first of all have to understand that what are those specific signals that can lead to a product market fit. Now, again, I want to put it in a language of one more gentleman. I actually who is what I should say, founder of Superhuman. So he says that if your product is no longer existing, are there 40% or more the users who are unhappy with that kind of a decision of you taking that product out of the shelf? Then probably you say that your product has hit that product market fit. So there are a lot of signals that you look at, um, in identifying that whether your product has reached that product market fit stage or not. So I think one of the early signals is that, in a typical pyramidal way, where we say that, have you identified those key problems or jobs to be done, which are really hitting that core problem that you're trying to solve for the customer, before jumping into the feature sets, etc. Can you validate it in the market and see that whether that is really leading to that particular value or not? Is one of the early indicators. People who are coming to your product, I mean, again, if I talk in terms of pure growth metrics, it simply means that how many people are really adopting your product. So going into a typical product-led growth kind of cycle, once you have defined your problem and once you have defined that, okay, these are the steps that you have to take, how many people are really buying into that? How many are realizing the core value that you're looking at, which basically goes back to my point of activation. If they have realized that core value, how many of those people are coming back? So you will typically at this point in time look at all those retention metric of D0, D7, D15, so on and so forth. You will look at how many people are churning. If you will see a kind of a negative slope going down, it simply means that your product isn't really identifying the right problems, or basically there is some flaw in your discovery, basically, which you need to correct. So you have to go back to that step one, kind of identify, revalidate with the users. So hence, in that particular stage, when you're trying to achieve product market fit, you have confidently said that there is a certain stickiness benchmark that you have achieved. So again, if I may put it that way, so your LTV to CAC ratio, again, it varies from industry to industry, but a benchmark says that it should be like 3:1 for across, if I may put it that way. So if you have kind of hit that kind of a bucket, then probably you have reached the stage. Now you can hire a growth manager and kind of take that curve upwards. So yeah.
And then my next question, and I'm not sure if this ties into the market fit as well, but you do a lot of research on market, the psychology of marketing. What tips do you, and you post a lot on it, so I really enjoy reading your posts about it. What tips do you have uh, on user behavior?
Sure. So my only tip, first of all, would be to, because as I said that, I mean, it depends upon the stage of the product as well. I mean, so again, the strategies vary depending upon that, in which stage you are trying to go ahead with your product. So for example, from my experience at Airtel, when I was trying to scale the already scaled product, which was a 10 to 100 product, and I was trying to sustain that growth, basically not lead it to the decline, but maybe give it more escape velocity over there. So I was trying to focus disproportionately on the engaged users and seeing that, okay, who are the dormant users, how I can get them back, right? When I talk about any of the psychology principles that we look at, be it Zeigarnik effect, where we say that a lot of attention is being paid by the users on the incomplete tasks that they have done, and Duolingo kind of capitalizes on that aspect. Or IKEA effect, where you kind of put in a lot of things on a platform, and let's say now you cannot really get yourself rid out of it. LinkedIn is a classic example where you have put in a lot of your profile updates out there already. So if suddenly one fine day it goes away, your all the connections and everything is lost, and you will be the most unhappy person, right? So any of these psychology principles that you want to use for the benefit of the growth of your product depends upon in which stage this product is, first of all. So if let's say you are, and which part of the funnel are you really focused on? So if let's say you are focused on the engagement phase, then there is some. I mean, while there are like 188 cognitive biases to be utilized, but let's say if I have to take one example, a peak and rule effect is utilized by the firms like Mailchimp, etc., where what they try to do is that they try to engage you to the point that they're able to take you to the next step, which is more towards the revenue curve, right? So what they do is that they will give you sufficient features at a basic level, but they will nudge you with some very humorous message that will really or maybe they will use a tactic of, let's say, a premium to kind of upgrade you. So they will use some sort of a pricing strategy. Some people at a very lower stage of the funnel towards the pricing use the decoy effect, where they make one option looks lucrative as compared to the other two. So again, my advice over here is that step one is to identify your user problem. Once you have identified that, then the next step is that how and which part of the funnel are you trying to optimize, and how it links to your north star. Once you have done that, then you can play around with multiple of these biases. Try to take example from your industry, other applications within your industry, like how they are really leveraging that. What is the learnings that you can take from those experiences, and you can cross apply it. And it's not only about your industry, it's about any other SaaS product. Can you kind of cross learn, cross apply that particular thing, right? So once you are able to do that, I think then is a step where you and of course revalidate, create a feedback loop around it, how you can move around with it, right? So this kind of creates a virtuous loop for you, and a true growth loop in which you can grow your user base. So, yeah.
Wonderful advice. Thank you for that. I'm just going to take a moment. There's a couple of questions, and hello to everyone that is joining us live. Yashika is asking, while choosing a career in product management, should we consider getting into a specific industry or specific type of product, being an MBA fresher?
All right. Hey, Ashika. Thanks for that question. So, when I say that whether you want to get into a specific industry or a specific type of products, now, um, first of all, I think it depends upon your own preference as well. I mean, like, I will start from there because uh, I mean, the first question that you need to ask yourself is that why even you need to get into product management, right? I mean, is that a field for you or not? Once you have ticked that bucket, then you come to the next step that okay, which industry makes sense or not. While the trend prevails that every company after 10 years might turn into a fintech firm, so it makes a lot of sense to be a fintech product manager, but not entirely, I would say. I mean, like you, even if let's say you did not end up getting into one industry, it is more of, I mean, in the initial stages, it is about understanding those fundamentals around product, which I just mentioned a while back, around problem discovery, purpose, goals, product vision, strategy, roadmap. All these key core concepts are something which becomes very critical for an early PM, and to kind of build that collaborative mindset, and of course lastly being curious, right? So these are the things that you need. So irrespective whether you are going to an X industry or a Y industry, initially won't really affect a lot. Yes, what I would suggest is that, but be a part of the firm which is not on a decline. Basically, you have to kind of be a part of the firm which is being successful, and you can find those trends through their their financial statements, or the annual financial statements, and then you can see that how they are really performing in the market. So maybe when you're a part of a high impact team, you will see that you will learn a lot. And even if then you are getting, let's say, into a 0 to 1 or a 1 to 10 kind of a stage, and the company's vision is really clear, and so you will have a lot to learn, and you will have a lot to grow as well. And who knows that you might just grow within the firm to become the leader over there itself, and rather you have to just kind of jump across. So yeah.
Yeah, another user is asking, when asked, I'm assuming for interviews, what is your one weakness as a PM? What would you say?
Okay. So okay, if I have to really take it more kind of personally, I think I'm still building up my storytelling capabilities. While like I have made a certain inroad, and but I feel that a product manager, if a product manager is a good storyteller, then that is a superpower to have. Apart from all the other things that a product manager needs to be, like collaborative, curious, so on and so forth. Uh, but what I feel are not able to convey your story very well to your to your management, um, and to your users through your product, I guess that's a big miss. That's going to be a big miss, right? So I'm as I said, that I'm not a perfect storyteller, but I am somewhere in the middle. I'm trying to get to that end stage. So yeah, that's something which I'm working on as well. Yeah.
Do you have time for two more questions?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Where do you see the trend of product management going?
All right, I think that's if I really have to break it down, the trend in terms of the current status, if I may put it that way, right? So we are just out of pandemic, and what we have seen is that a lot of traditional firms which were averse to digital at a certain point, now this has digital has become, or digital transformation has become a center focus for them. So I am coming from my own experience of getting those calls from those kind of firms, and once I started understanding that how they are really trying to grow. So this product management as a field has suddenly kind of bumped up during the pandemic, and people are realizing the value that if they are not trying to grow their business digitally, then they are missing out on something. So there is a lot of opportunities that are coming down the line. But when I say in terms of specific, what can be a key lever for growth for, let's say, an early aspirant. I mean, like, if somebody who, let's say, wants to break into product management, or somebody who is very much new to product management at this point in time, for them, I would say, if you in your, let's say, next 4 or 5 years are able to understand all the core aspects of product management, be it around technology, be it around design, be it around business, through these roles of, let's say, growth PM, platform PM, or a core PM, you will kind of build a USP for yourself, which will be hard to break. And increasingly, as we move ahead, and we are seeing a lot of equity hot waters right now, a lot of firings that are happening in the startup world, you will find yourself in a state where you have built a superpower for yourself, where nobody, I mean, like, companies will vie for people who have, this full stack understanding of not only the customer but also the technology and the business. So I see that there is a lot of upside to product management as a career in next 10 years to come. Obviously, technologies change, so you have to keep your curious hats on to kind of make sure that you are able to kind of move ahead, and be relevant to the market. But at the same time, make sure that you are hitting on all those buckets as a part of that traditional Venn diagram. What we say as a product manager is a CEO of a mini CEO of a firm. But what I would say that try to skillfully master couple of those circles, or at their overlap at the max, so that you can create that what I should say, a rarity for yourself within the firm, right? So I think that is more important for yourself to be thriving, because otherwise it's not a career field, right? That's what I would say.
And final question, what is the exciting part of being a product management for you?
Oh, there are actually, I mean, there are many things that I would like to talk about it, but there are a couple of things. What I mean, it comes from my own personality. So I mean, like, I think collaboration, the part where you actually cross work with lot many teams and lot many functions, lot many other product managers. Uh, this kind of gives you an opportunity to kind of wear the hat of the company owner or a CEO, if I may put it that way, to kind of really understand that, okay, how your product is going to really hit the market, what value it is going to create, how it is going to be placed with respect to your competition. So there are a lot many things that you learn. I mean, if I may just list down all the MBA subjects that I have studied, probably 4 year, I mean, like, 2 or 3 MBAs will be lesser as compared to what learning you might get out of a product management career, right? So there's so much to learn out here. So it will always keep you excited. So it will never get boring for you, because there are trends that are changing all the time, right? So I think that curiosity comes from that collaboration. That collaboration comes with an extensive understanding, and then building that empathy. And of course, there is a lot to learn in each and every of these dimensions. As I said, that I'm still trying to catch up with that storytelling bit. So a lot many things to kind of build across. So yeah, I mean, that is one exciting thing. The second thing exciting is that whatever you're writing on that paper, be it a PRD, be it a one pager, you're seeing that happening right in front of you in terms of the launch. And that is something which is very, very exciting, because if you are, let's say, building a 0 to 1 product, it's like a baby for you, right? I mean, you're now trying to nurture it to the stages ahead. And yeah, I mean, these couple of things kind of trump many other things for me. So yeah, I mean, it's something very, very exciting.
Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. There's no more questions on the queue. Really appreciate your time and your insights. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. Make sure you're following Ankit on LinkedIn, and make sure you follow us on LinkedIn for our latest events. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye,
you,
everyone.
and thank you guys.